Hey guys, I'm back again with another video. It's the second part of the US black metal video series thing that I'm doing. And of the few bands that I'm going to be talking about, I think there's going to end up being about 4 or 5 different bands I'm going to be talking about. This is going to be probably the most famous on the list, but I think they're still worthy of talking about. So I'm just going to kind of go through how I got into them, what I think of the music, talk about the history of the band, and then normally I'd talk about what they plan to do in the future, but I'm just going to kind of discuss that at the end. Well, when I go into sort of like looking for new music, I go about it through about 3 or 4 different ways. Like one, I'll go on YouTube or SoundCloud or Bandcamp and I'll just browse and see what's going on and see what's popular. Two, I'll keep an eye out when I'm watching bands live, see what's up in terms of the live scene, and then if I like them, research into them to get to know them a bit better. Or three, I go on recommendations, which is the case with this one, but it's not a recommendation purely based on music, it's actually based on a book. And it's actually this book. It's by a guy called Stephen Erickson, and as you can see, it's called Gardens of the Moon, and it's part of the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. And it was it's an ongoing series, and well, at least I think it's ongoing. And I was talking to another one of my more bookish friends regarding that series because I'd just bought that book and was reading it. And she started asking me, knowing I like black metal, whether I'd heard of Caladan Brood. And obviously at that point I hadn't. So she kind of pushed me in the direction of the band. I checked them out and I ended up absolutely loving all of their music almost immediately. So in terms of the history, Caladan Brood were formed in the home of Mormonism, Salt Lake City in Utah. Very strange place for a black metal band to come from. Well, at least I think. Maybe there's a really strong, vibrant scene over in that part of the US, but it was formed by in 2008 by 2 guys who I don't know the real names, but their stage names are Shield Anvil and Mortal Sword. And they came together and bonded over 2 mutual loves of theirs. One of them was Malazan Book of the Fallen, that book series I've just been talking about. And the other one is the Austrian epic black metal band Summoning. And they ended up forming a band together and doing something in the style of Summoning, but whereas Summoning kind of write songs based on the work of J.R.R. Tolkien, they had a tendency to write about the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now, really, for the first few years, they didn't really do a lot. They didn't, as far as I'm aware, they didn't do any demos or anything. They didn't, as far as I'm aware, they have never played a live show. I imagine it's pretty hard to do with 2 people, so they did a lot of stuff like, I don't know whether they were just working on the first record, but when that first record came out in February 2013, it kind of took the scene by storm, and they've garnered a very strong reputation solely off of this release. And the album they released was Echoes of Battle, and it was released on Northern Sounds Productions. And a lot of, in terms of, hype surrounding stuff, you'll get bands where they'll have a lot of hype surrounding them, but you can never really put your finger on why there's a hype surrounding them. But with this band, it's totally understandable because the music on this album is amazing. There's 6 songs on it, and they all kind of brush around the 10-minute mark. So it's a really long, sprawling, epic, bombastic sounding album. It's really amazing. The black metal elements are really, really raw, but not so unbelievably raw that you cannot listen to them. It's pretty I think it's pretty accessible in terms of and that's more to do with the keyboard sections. The keyboard sections on here are used very well, and they kind of tend to be where the hooks lie, because a lot of black metal bands, you'll get the hooks will be like most metal music, it'll be in the guitar or the singing or something like that. But with this, it's actually the keyboard sections. A lot of the stuff that would normally be put onto the guitar. Not to say that there aren't some good guitar parts on here, but there's a lot of really good sort of keyboard sections which really draw you in. And then there's something that I really love in black metal is there's a lot of chanted vocals and sort of almost sing-along vocals, and like probably the best sort of bands that do that are bands like Tarke, and I think not enough bands do stuff like that. So it's really nice to see that they pulled all these elements together and it worked really well. And solely off of this release, they've garnered a pretty strong following, and obviously a lot of, I think this is one of many videos of people just completely gushing about how amazing they are. And like I said, the hype surrounding the album is completely justified. It's one of those albums that I think in a few years' time, when they're writing the history of modern black metal as we know it, as we're living through now, that this will get a pretty significant mention, because I think it's kind of revitalized a lot of the epic black metal scene and gotten people more into that side of the black metal sound. And a lot of bands have risen to prominence, not off the back of the band, but in sort of tandem at the same time. And a lot of people, then they've probably garnered a lot more attention than they would because there's releases like this coming out. And yeah, it's really amazing. I got into summoning through these. I actually, because they did a couple of covers of music that they've done, and I ended up checking out Minas Morgul and absolutely loving that as well. And one thing I will say about this album is there's a lot, in terms of music, when I put on an album, I tend to only listen to one or two songs. This is one of those ones where just the entire thing is absolutely solid. It's most albums you'll have like 2 or 3 songs that are really catchy, that are sort of like pushed as a single or the stuff that they put out to promote. Then there's a few more stronger songs, and then there's a couple of songs in there that are just thrown in to pad the album out. But with this, all 6 of the songs on here are absolutely amazing in their own right. They're not just there to pad the album out or to anything like that. Every single one of the tracks could very well, you could check them out on YouTube, and any particular song on here and it would draw you in. It is like I said, an absolutely amazing album, and I absolutely can't recommend it enough. I've listened to it hundreds of times since I got into them, and I never get sick of it. So now this would be the point in the video where I normally talk about what the band is planning for the future, from what I've gathered from checking out social media, but they haven't really updated the social media for about a year or so. They haven't updated it since the very beginning of last year. And there's been no new interviews, nothing regarding a new album. So I don't even know what the hell's going on with it. So hopefully this is a very good album. So I hope it's not the last release by these guys. I just hope that they're taking time off to really work on the second album and make it as good as it can be. And I'm hoping that whatever they release next, whether it's an EP, an album, a split, whatever, is going to be just as good and amazing as this one, if not better. It'd be amazing. So yeah, they're probably, like I said, out of all the bands that I'm going to be talking about, they're probably the most famous. The next one I'm planning on doing is we're going to be straying into Canadian territory a little bit to talk about a band that actually features musicians from one of my favourite bands. So, and again, the band themselves aren't that famous, but they are pretty good. So keep an eye out for that. That should be coming in about a few days or so, hopefully. I just need to research it and everything, but I would definitely, like I said, check out Caladan Brood, check out Summoning, check out Miles and Book of the Fallen. Anything that's in the more epic style of black metal, I would check out. Stuff like Appalachian Winter, Gallow Braid, everything along those lines, and check out Northern Silence Productions, because it's something. This is really the type of music that I think it's not going to be the mainstream of black metal, but I think it's going to draw a lot of people in and get them a lot of new fans. If you like power metal, I know that sounds a bit bizarre, but if you're into the more symphonic elements of metal, definitely check this out, because you'll find stuff that you'll really like on here. And again, like I said, can't recommend it enough. So if you have made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here soon. Good night, and may your God go with you.